formation tools we have seen in the longest time. So.
Right, so the reality is that most ICOs do not happen in the US and now actively restrict participation by the US. So they do their KYC and AML procedures, but they are actively restricting the United States. So if you look over the landscape of ICOs that have been done so far this year, which were about 234 or so, and they raised about 3.7 billion this year, you'll see that 40% of this money was raised by the top 10 companies. I would just encourage you to just check out those, participate in those. A third of those are infrastructure investments, so to actually build the platform. And when we say ICOs, it's very important to understand that ICO is a terrible, terrible, terrible marketing term, right? So it tries to relate it to IPOs. They're not IPOs, and not one single ICO is the same as another ICO, which means an ICO can represent creating a new currency. And it's the only purpose of it being a currency, or it's creating a new protocol, or a lot of those are trying to pre-sale services that they're building. The low-hanging fruits to look for here is companies that have already something that resembles a currency in their system, i.e. if you look at your frequent flyer mile system, right? It's a virtual currency. If you tokenize that system, you're just adding a function to it. So those are potentially very, very successful ICOs, where they already have a function from the get-go, where there's no question whether or not the SEC is going to move in and calls it a security because, hey, I was trading it yesterday, I was calling it points today, and tomorrow I'm going to call it tokens. So you're likely going to be on the safe side. That said, ICOs that go out today should simply not pick the United States due to its uncertainty. There won't be certainty for some time to be had in between the different governing bodies.
Chris, you mentioned that a lot of the ICOs, initial ICOs, were out of the U.S., right?
Yes, mostly Switzerland. Specifically, the large ones have been done there. If you look at the top 10, I think 60% of those have been done out of Switzerland. They are based there.
Rod?
Yeah, I want to add to that because Chris is thoroughly immersed in ICOs and is conducting them and has done a number of them already. We're in a different situation because we announced our ICO program 3 or 4 months ago. We had already had some discussions prior to that. So what we're seeing is companies that are further along, in many cases, that are quite well established, that want to do ICOs in the US. They want to be securities compliant. We have that pathway, if you will. And the other thing, which is a very new development, is that we're seeing some platforms from outside the US that are approaching us. That is to say, ICO funding platforms from outside the US, approaching us to work with us to take some of their ICOs and make them securities compliant by utilizing our services and partnering with us for that. These numbers are always going to be a small portion of the whole because of the effort and the cost involved. And that actually is helping us a little bit. I was worried that we would be inundated by kind of flaky little companies that had nothing but a concept on a napkin and thought it would be easy to raise $100 million. That hasn't happened, and what we're getting is quality companies.
I got a really hard question for the panel, and you guys can all pitch in on this. I attended the Start Engine conference on ICOs in Santa Monica, and a guy stood up and said, I lost $3 million, my thing got hacked. Anybody help me? And I had lunch with a guy that had his money, he had $300,000 in a wallet, and he said, I can't figure out how to get the money out, and I've tried for 6 months, I can't get it out. And the other guy at lunch said, well, yeah, I bought it at $7,800, and a day is $6,300, and now it's like $11,000. And so you have a digital currency, if you will, that has the potential to be hacked, fluctuates tremendously in value. I'm asking you why, if I have to do a securities offering in order to raise funding from people and promise them some return, why would I want to use coins instead of money? Who wants that?
Well, all of us do. Yeah. I think Chris should start on this. Yeah.
Okay, so fundamentally, all cryptocurrencies are basically bearer instruments. So they're no different from the piece of paper you have in your pocket right now. So if you put this into a safe, you lose the key. It's the same situation that you have electronically. So that's one big thing to understand. The other thing about security is, yeah, you don't want to store larger amounts of cryptocurrency in what's called a hot wallet. So a wallet connected to the internet. You can just store it on a hard drive. You can just leave it unconnected, sitting on your desk, put a sticker on there with your personal key to that wallet, and that's it. It's unhackable.
Well, wait, let me stop you right there, Chris.
Sure.
If I've got all my material on a flash drive or hard drive or something, and I know that I plug it in order to access my account, there has to be something in the account that says, yes, that's Gene. In other words, there is something in the central
it doesn't.
currency.
No,
No?
but no, by definition, there's
not it?
no relationship to you. The relationship is just to the wallet and to the private key,
But how does the
not
wallet
to you.
verify that it's me if it doesn't have something in it?
If you
that
lose a
says-
$100 bill on the street, someone else picks it up. That's the end of the story. It's the same here digitally.
Okay.
And let me add one more item over here. I think, Gene, your question was like, why are people investing in coins versus fiat currency?
Yeah, it's all squirrely all over the place. You get hacked and everything.
Well,
Why?
I think you got to step back and look at the actual ICO as a capital formation tool.
Right.
This is the first time that we know of that people in Zimbabwe, the country you like, actually can invest in the in a growing enterprise in the United States or anywhere in the world. Even in the U.S., before the Jobs Act, people were not allowed to invest in these because they had actually no mechanics to do that, no mechanism
No
to do that.
mechanism, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and their current fiat currency has probably 40% inflation rate. so-
Exactly. So if you think about it as a capital formation tool, this is unprecedented, and it allows you to tap into a global demand for your product, your services, or your altcoin. So from that perspective, it will stay. It needs to get cleaned up. And then the second question is, when you do take the actual coin, how do you protect it? That's really why, as Chris mentioned, that really storing it and really protecting it is an opportunity for the new ICOs and the new enterprises to form. And I'm sure, Rod, you have comments.
Yeah,
actually,
thank
if
you.
I
So,
could jump
so
in.
on the security
Wait a minute,
front,
let's give Charles a comment on that. Rod, 1 second.
I wanted to take even a further step back and say, well, what are people investing in when they invest in a coin offering? Why do some people call it non-dilutive equity? And what are the benefits and the risks? When you purchase a coin in the stereotypical ICO that's going on now, you're not getting an equity interest in the company. What you're investing in is something that will be used in the stream of commerce around this company. And if the company becomes successful, they're saying, this private currency point system, reward system that we have